You are seeking perfection, not progress.
You may not even be a natural genius. You may just be like impatient.
Then there is no end game, right? You're just the hamster on the wheel.
Yeah. Yo, what's going on? I got a crazy statistic to share with y'all today. Listen in. So studies suggest that 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point in their career. Now, are you one of these people that feel like you're not good enough, or maybe you don't deserve the things that you're trying to accomplish in your life? Well, if you're one of these people, or if you feel any of these feelings, listen to today's episode as we're going to dive into what we experience when it comes to imposter syndrome, some of the ways that we combat this issue, and we actually turn it into our superpower. So let's get into the episode today. What's going on, Latin Wells family? Welcome back to another episode. Super excited to be diving into this show with y'all today. If you guys don't know, if it's your first time tapping in, this show is all about personal development and mental health for the Latino community, a topic that's not spoken about within our folks, and we just want to bring it to y'all on the Latin Wealth platform. And I'm always excited to do this episode 5 with my man Carlos. What's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. Doing well. Excited to be here in Dallas, bro. Kicking it with you, seeing some fam, and excited about this topic because it's something that I've done a lot of self-development around, and trying to better understand myself through my imposter syndrome.
100%. So imposter syndrome, you said it, we spoke about it in the intro. You want to break down the textbook definition of what it is. Let's let the people know.
Yeah, man. And first and foremost, I think this is something that's stricken all communities. Right?
For sure.
Like you said, a lot of people go through this, but imposter syndrome, also known as imposter phenomenon or imposterism, is the tendency to believe your success is underserved and that someday people will realize you're a fraud.
That's crazy.
That's deep.
That's
right?
deep.
And I think ultimately as you progress through life, you're bound to, encounter this. Something that I've recently have learned is that imposter syndrome doesn't just affect my professional life, it also impacts my personal life.
That's big. That's big. I love that. And it's also crazy. There's an expert on this subject. Shout out to Dr. Valerie Young. She actually categorized imposter syndrome into 5 different subgroups. And I kind of want to break down what these different subgroups are, because you may be one of these people that fall into one of these subgroups. And, I want to break this down. So number 1 is the perfectionist. All right. It's funny because as we're setting up all this equipment, my guy Alvaro behind the camera, he's like, he mentioned something about being a perfectionist. I'm like, you don't know what we're about to get into today. But look, perfectionists, they set excessively high goals for themselves, and when they fail to reach a goal, they experience major self-doubt and worry about measuring up. Whether they realize it or not, this group can also be control freaks, feeling like they want to get something done right. They'll have to do it themselves. All right, just a little teaser. That sounds a lot like myself. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. I think a perfectionist, depending on where you're at in your career or what you're trying to prove to yourself or to others, I think this is an easy trap to fall into.
For sure.
Because ultimately you are seeking perfection, not progress. And so you begin to break down some of the details that may not matter as much. And you begin to generate anxiety around some of these areas where they may not really mean as much as you think in the moment.
For sure. 100%. He's speaking to me right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, listen, I struggle with this as well. There's a lot of areas in my life where I have to ask myself, what really matters, because sometimes in the moment you amplify the smaller things. And so anyways, I find myself in this area, in this camp often.
For sure. Break down the second one for us.
Yeah. So the Superwoman slash Superman, since people who experience this phenom are convinced that they're phonies amongst real deal colleagues, they often push themselves to work harder and harder to measure up. But this just is a false cover up for their insecurities, and they work overtime to harm that may harm their mental health, but also burn relationships. So I've seen this a lot, and I have personally struggled with this one, especially because in my career, I've been in tech for 15 years, and I don't have a technical background, right? And sometimes you're in these, meetings, or the stakes are super high. And so you try to overcompensate
By working harder.
Yeah. And over time, I've learned that it's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's about surrounding yourself with the smartest people and bringing the best out of them. And so this one hits home because, to me, I always thought, 50 Cent actually wrote a book about this, right? It's about hustle smarter, not hustle harder. And I've had to take that back to say, like, in these scenarios, I need to delegate more. I need to be more mindful of everyone else's superpowers. And I've had to build up that awareness in the moment.
And, that's big in the Latino community, because one thing that we do really well is we work our butts off, right?
100%.
We get down dirty, we'll do all the dirty work, but I find that sometimes we miss the working smart portion of it, right? Which can take us to the next level.
100%. And I think ultimately, when you are feeling like, you are a fraud and you have to work your way out of getting found out, then there is no end game, right? You're just working. You're just the hamster on the wheel.
Yeah.
You're really getting nowhere. And I think having more awareness around your skill sets, your contributions, and understanding that, together we will accomplish this, not just myself. That's actually somewhere where I struggle, to be honest with you.
100%. Yeah. So I want to break down the third one for us. So this is the third one out of 5. The natural genius. They judge their competence based on the ease and speed as opposed to their effort, right? In other words, if it takes a long time to master something, they feel shame. They want to get it done quick. They feel like everything should just come natural to them, whether it's basketball or academics. If it doesn't come quick, if it's not easy for them, then they feel guilt and shame on themselves.
This one is, I think this one is one that people will resonate with often, because we currently live in the microwave culture where success or perfection or, everything takes time. And today everything looks easy. So people, if they don't get it right away, if they don't achieve that initial success, they're quick to quit. And so I think that the natural genius is probably something that we all can resonate with, because you got to start somewhere, and understanding that progress, not perfection, is key.
I think what's interesting about that microwave mindset, that microwave society that we're in, we may need to do a whole episode about this, but a lot of people, that's where the self-awareness needs to step in, because you may not even be a natural genius. No. You may just be like impatient, right? And you're not, so I think there's a fine line between the two. The natural genius is someone that's gifted. They may feel frustrated when things are not easy. And we live in a society where if it ain't easy, it feels like they just won't do it.
That's it. And I think that's really what separates, talented people from the rest, right?
Yeah.
Like, you understand that, progress is the rent's due every day. Yeah. So I think as you grow in your career, the natural genius will still be in you, right, but you'll learn how to suppress that, that persona as you start to, gain more progress.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say to the natural genius out there, it's interesting because You could be a natural genius in your playing field for the majority of your career, and you step into tech or you step into marketing. Now you're not, and now you're frustrated. Now you're feeling like you're feeling the imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah. And I think to that point, like, you know, there's a lot of savants out there that may struggle with other things and what they're good at. But, you know, and for the most part, like 99.9% of us aren't savants, right? And so you have to understand that you have to build the skill set, you have to build the muscle memory, and ultimately failure is a good thing. I think that's the one thing that I've learned from imposter syndrome.
Talk to us about the fourth one, the soloist.
Yeah. So the soloist, it's defined as someone who suffers, sufferers who feel as though asking for help reveals their phoniness, and are they're called soloists. It's okay to be independent, but not the expert. You refuse assistance so that you can prove your worth. And ultimately, I think the soloist is really the saying, right? The saying goes, right? If you want to get ahead, go alone. If you want to get far, go together.
For sure.
Right? And so the soloist is just that person that feels that they can't ask for help. They are going to get exposed for asking for help. And I've got a really good recommendation on how to combat this.
Okay, we'll get into that. I want to dive into the last one, which is the expert. Experts measures their competence based on what and how much they know or can do. Believing they will never know enough, they fear being exposed as inexperienced or unknowledgeable. So that person that's in the room and they feeling like, man, do I know enough? Do I have enough knowledge to be in this room? Right. That's the person that's as Dr. Valerie Young explains to be the expert.
Yeah. I think the expert is a tough one because, you know, ultimately being in the room is the accomplishment, right? Getting into the conversations or into those meetings. But the expert wants to go above and beyond that because they feel they have something to prove. And, you know, I've definitely fallen victim of this most recently in my personal life, you know, trying to be the expert in the family or trying to be the expert on a specific topic. And I realized that, you know, it's annoying, right? Like taking that third person perspective look on myself in times and be like, yeah, I don't need to be that guy, right?
Yeah.
I don't have anything to prove to family or friends, right? Like they love me for who I am. But I could see this, and I experienced this a lot at work, you know, where people, you know, in my career, people feel that they are validated by their expertise, and all they're doing is overcompensating for their, you know, for their insecurities.
That's good. That's good. All right. So we broke down the 5 different subgroups.
Yeah.
I kind of want to dive into a personal stories of each of ours, right?
Yeah.
If you don't mind, you can go first, talk to the people about how you experienced imposter syndrome in your life.
Yeah. So I think for me, imposter syndrome is really about like, you know, I've experienced all of these, right, throughout my career, personally and professionally. Just to give a quick personal story, you know, I've always felt like I've been trying to play catch up in my my personal and my professional life, and so many times have I persuade, you know, the perfectionist or the soloist, and especially the expert. I think for me, as a workaholic, right, identify as that. You know, no matter how much I work, I'm never going to be as intelligent or as good enough as the rest. And so that's really been something that I've experienced in different stages of my career. Always trying to move up you know, trying to move up like the ladder or trying to progress in life. And so I felt like I've had this intensity about myself that I've had to kind of ease into a little bit. And so my personal story really is that I have learned how to understand my imposter syndrome, and that I now understand that this is more of me having awareness around certain aspects of my personality or my character. And that's been important because I used to be frustrated or dismissive about my imposter syndrome. Now I understand that it is giving me a around the corner view of what the other side of that coin looks like. And so, this has been more of a general awareness that I'm telling you about. And I think that I still struggle with it. Personals kind of dive into is I've realized now that I show different aspects of imposter syndrome in my personal life. I used to just look at how it showed up in my professional life. And that to me has helped me a little bit with dealing with my anxiety and dealing with just the motivators that's pushing me to do things.
I love that. For me, when it comes to imposter syndrome, like you said, it showed up not only throughout my life, but we look at these 5 different subgroups, man. I've definitely experienced all 5, right?
Yeah.
Combination of them at certain times. And for me, growing up, I just had this mentality where, man, the options and the opportunities are limited in my life, right? I wasn't given the silver spoon. I wasn't given, X, Y, Z, whatever. So I just need to be on a 10 at all time, right?
Yeah.
Can't be smoking, can't be drinking, can't be going out. I can't be, messing around. I can't do none of that because I might miss my opportunity. Like I was real rigid like that.
Yeah.
And I think although my intention was pure, and I think still to this day, I'm kind of the same way, but the difference is I was coming from a place of scarcity 100%. Mindset. And that just comes from upbringing. That just comes from the things, that we all experience, right? As Latino people of color, we experience these different things. And I think, in those circumstances, it was coming from scarcity, right? I still have that same mindset. I'm not the type of guy I like being at the house with my wife. I don't drink, I don't smoke. But now I have the mindset of abundance, right? I shifted that and how I view that mindset now.
Yeah. Well, I'll share this and shout out to Chris Hatsfield. He's a psychologist that I've worked with. He's a executive coach that has given me a lot of guidance on this field specifically. And one thing that he mentioned was that every superhero needs a villain. And ultimately, your imposter syndrome isn't necessarily a villain, but it is the anti-hero in your story that is just giving you awareness around, something that if you don't have, at least awareness about, right, you're more likely to pitfall into your own bad habits or your own doing, right? And so he told me to give my imposter syndrome a name.
Now we talking tools now.
Yeah. And so to give my imposter syndrome a name and then use that as a way to identify and acknowledge when that person is, in your head. And it's very challenging, right? It's a great exercise to do. But ultimately, I named mine Prime. When Prime shows up, right?
Prime time,
man. Prime is trying to go in, bro.
Got to go crazy,
right? And he's like, he's just trying to go in, and he's always there to catch the touchdown and spike the football. But the team, right? We got to play together. And so I just realized that he is on the team. He is somebody that I need to be mindful of and considerate of.
That's good.
But at no time do I need to let Prime drive, the winning touchdown, right? He's got, he's contributing, but he's not in control.
Yeah, and Prime got the swag. He don't get everybody hyped up. He got the swag.
Absolutely, and I think you need that, right?
Definitely.
Because
you got the confidence.
Absolutely, right? It's an intrinsic motivator, whether it's negative or or positive, right? Like you've got to be mindful of your inner talk.
Yeah, 100%. One thing I definitely want to recommend to people out there dealing with this is like, therapy has definitely helped me out tremendously. So if you're one of these people that feel like you're dealing with this, highly suggest that you seek therapy. For me, a couple different tactics and tools that I implemented to overcome and combat imposter syndrome is controlling what I can control. That's it.
Yeah.
Because like when you try to be the perfectionist, you're trying to be the expert, you're trying to be the natural genius, like you're trying to control everything. And there's only three things I can control. I can only control my attitude, right? I can control my effort, and I can control how much faith I have in God. That's it. And I'm going to let everything else play out the way it should. I'm going to let God do what he got to do. And that's it. I'm just going to show up with a good attitude. I'm going to give 110% effort, and I'm going to keep my faith in God. And, what's meant for me, what God wants me to have, then I'll have. And what he doesn't, I thank him for that.
Love it. I think to your point earlier, also, it's about having that abundance mindset. For a lot of us in our community, we think that there's, one bus, one route. And if you miss that bus at that time, like you're done. That's it. Right. Yeah. Like your ride to wherever you were going is done. And, I'll be honest, like I probably struggle with that the most, is just understanding that, everything has a time and everything has, and so a lot of the time I'm trying to control those situations. But, thankfully, like you said, I found coaching, mentorship, therapy. To your point, LeBron James has over 20 coaches. The greatest player in the world has 20 coaches. Why? Because he's just got to focus on getting buckets, right? And so reason why I bring that up is we all got to get help. We all need help. And I think that kind of puts it into context of like, you need those experts in your life to help you get through things or to get to the next stage of your life.
No, that's a great point you brought up. And one of the coldest things I heard Denzel Washington still got a coach. He damn near the GOAT, and he still got one, right? So come on, like there's some work that we can be doing personally. We can always be growing, improving. It's one of the reasons why we created this show. So y'all can kind of dig deep and figure out like, am I dealing with this? And maybe I could take from their experience and what some of their tools and apply it to my life, or go out and seek and improve yourself. Everything that we're talking about goes into wealth building, mindset, and just overall being a better person.
That's it. I mean, ultimately that if you identify with these, with this topic or any of these different subgroups, you're not alone. You definitely are part of a majority out there, and ultimately it's about finding the tools to help you overcome and combat these things.
Sure, 100%. If you guys enjoyed this episode, learned anything from this one, go ahead and share it with somebody else that needs to hear this information. And it's the Latin Wealth family. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.